let me start with a story. Once upon a time, in a forest far away, beautiful forest, lived millions of animals in happy coexistence. And one afternoon, during a very long, hot summer, let's say influenced by climate change, a thunderstorm broke loose. And lightning strikes were hitting the forest like crazy. And one of that lightning strikes hit an old tree that caught fire. And the fire started out really small in a remote part of the forest, so none of the animals seemed to mind very much, except for a tiny little bird that went to the animals and said, guys, we need to put this fire out. Fires have this tendency to get out of control. You know, we have to get with it. But the animals weren't interested in what the little bird had to say, and they went on with their business. And in the meantime, of course, the fire got bigger. So the little bird went to the animals again and said, guys, this is not going well. This fire is getting out of control. We need to put it out. Will you please help me? And the other animals said, little bird, you know by well that this is not our responsibility. It's the responsibility of the big animals to put out the fire. If you want to put the fire out, you have to ask if the big animals are willing to put it out for us. It's not to us. And they went on with their business. And in the meantime, as you can imagine, the fire got bigger again. And in fact, it got out of control, just like the little bird had predicted. And at this stage, the animals in the forest started to panic. They were like, we have to get out. This is going to kill us. This fire is out of control. Little bird, come on, come flee with us. Let's leave the forest. But the little bird had other plans. It said, no, I am not going to flee. I am going to put this fire out. And he took a long, deep breath and flew right towards the fire. And the closer it got to the fire, the more unbearable the smoke and the heat became, but it kept on going. And just before the fire, there was a lake in the forest, and it took a sharp dive down the lake to collect precisely one drop of water in its tiny pack, one drop of water. And with that drop of water, it flew back to the fire to drop the drop of water on the fire. And it flew back to the lake again to collect yet another drop of water, to drop the drop of water on the fire again. And again, and again. And after a while, the work took its toll of the little bird, so the little bird had to take a rest. So it flew back to where all the animals were watching him doing his work in safety. And it sat down, and they came right up to the little bird and said, little bird, this is useless. What are you thinking? You can't fight a fire with tiny drops of water. A fire like this can only go out with a proper long rain shower, Bergen-style rain shower. This is useless. But the little bird had other plans. He said, no, I just have to keep going. I can make it rain. If I just throw enough drops of water on the fire, it will rain. And it flew back towards the fire again, into the unbearable heat and smoke again, took a dive in the lake to collect one drop of water in its tiny pack and dropped it on the fire again. And again, and again. And after a while, a few of the other animals were so inspired and touched by the unshakable dedication and determination of the little bird that they decided to follow in his footsteps. They too went towards the fire. They too went towards the lake to collect a drop of water, and they too dropped that drop of water on the fire. And they too went back and back and back again to repeat the same work. And after a while, more animals got inspired by the little fire brigade that emerged. And they too joined. And they too went to the lake to collect a drop of water and to get it over to the fire and drop it on the fire. And what started out as a single bird, a very tiny, small bird, dropping a single drop of water on the fire, became a rain shower that eventually put out this forest fire and saved at least part of the forest. We're not going to make it more beautiful than it is. It saved part of the forest. Well, I guess it doesn't take a lot of fantasy to see that this story is about us. It's a story, but the story is about us. The forest in the story is our planet. Our planet is on fire. We see headlines like this every day. I could fill at least 15 of these slides easily with the same message. Climate change is a raging forest fire at this moment. And we are in an ecological mega crisis. It's a fact. And if the forest in the story is our planet, then we are the animals. So it's us that are downplaying the danger of the fire. It is us that are watching the fire grow as passive bystanders. And it's us that are delegating our duties and responsibilities to the government and to big corporations. And that, folks, is straight up suicidal. Because the story I told you is made up, but climate change is real. This is real. This is about us. This is our life. And so if we want to survive, if we want to have a stake in our future, we have to become an activist. It's as easy as that. We all have to become activists, just like the little bird did. And speaking of system change, an interesting place to start is the 21st century skills. Are you familiar with them? No? Well, the 21st century skills are a set of international universal education skills, requirements, so to say, that enable students worldwide to be empowered and enabled to be successful in today's society. And as I work at a University of Applied Science, we work with these skills. You could say they're like a recipe for success for today's system, for today's society. And that is why I think we need to develop new skills, and I'm going to present those new skills with you today. Because I think that the skills that we need have to be fundamentally different than these skills. Because there's something completely and utterly wrong with today's society and today's economic system. It is a system that is on a collision course with ecology. And that can't be the meaning of an economy. There is no such thing as sustainability in an unsustainable system. There is no such thing as success in a failing system. And therefore, there's also no such thing as business as usual, as these 21st century skills portray, in a state of emergency. And it is actually where we are in this, in the midst of. And that's why we at the University of Applied Science of Rotterdam, where I work, we are in a transformation process where we try to recreate, reinvent the business school and the economic school as it is. We want to turn our University of Applied Science into a university of applied changemakership. So everything we want to do, everything we want to achieve is to make sure that we enable and empower our students to become changemakers. That we give them the skills to take care of this crisis and take charge into the creation of their future. Which sounds completely logic, doesn't it? But yet, if you look at the current reality, a lot of business schools and a lot of universities teach students to become part of this system. And this system is in trouble. So we want to empower and enable what we call a sense of urgency and a sense of agency and the skills that come with it. And I will dive deeper into those later. But it's really important that we work on both skills. It's really important to have a sense of urgency, that we acknowledge the trouble that we're in. But if you only activate a sense of urgency without a sense of agency, you end up with real trouble. So urgency without agency is apathy and depression. Urgency plus agency is activism. So this is really, really important to change the system. If we want to change the system, we need to develop urgency and agency. And we do this via three sets of skills. And these three skills are basically my theory of system change that I work with as a professor. Immersion, dissolution, and amplition. And they are about phasing, freeing, and feeding. And I will dive a bit deeper into those by now. And so the problem with us humans is that we are wired to fight, flight, and freeze in the face of danger. It's instinct. We can't help it. And that is really, really, really problematic in the situation we're in, because we can't put the fire out with fighting, flighting, and freezing. We have to develop a new set of skills that helps us to give a skillful reaction to the situation we're in. I always say we need to change our coping mechanism into a hoping mechanism. And face, free, and feed are, in my opinion, the three outlines that we can train ourselves with so that we can react in a different way, in a way that is constructive and system changing. So let me walk you through all of these three skills. So starting with immersion. So immersion is the ability to face reality. That's why I've labeled it face. Face reality. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we accept and acknowledge that collapse, ecological collapse, isn't a potential far-away future problem anymore, but happening right here, right now. We're in the midst of it. It all starts with embracing this painful truth, no matter how ugly, no matter how dreadful it is, for the simple reason that you can only change what you acknowledge. You can only change what you acknowledge. So we have to acknowledge that this is real. That's the starting point. And over the years, I've interviewed hundreds of change makers in the Netherlands. All people that were driven to change the system, to change the economics, to change the face of business, and they had one thing in common, all of them. They all immersed in pain. They all went towards the problems and the pain instead of away. All of them. Every social entrepreneur I've interviewed internalized a societal problem and made it personal, by choice. And this is crucial. So like the bird in the story, we have to fly towards the fire, not away from the fire, which is what our instinct tells us. We have to go away. We have to learn to bear the unbearable heat of smoke and fire, of the heat and smoke of the fire. We have to get up close and personal. And this is also really simple because you can only put a fire out if you're close enough. So the idea that we can change the system from a safe distance is delusional. It demands that we are all in. It demands that we put ourselves on the line. And that's why characteristic number one of Changemaker is that there are very, very courageous people. Very courageous people. They dare to go intimate. It's all about minimizing the distance between the pain, the problem, and yourself. So that is immersion. It all starts with immersion. And the second skill is the dissolution skill. And dissolution is the exact opposite of revolution. So revolution is about overthrowing power structures. But you can also overcome power structures. You can dissolve the power that power holds over you. Power is only power if you accept it. This is really crucial. You can dissolve power structures. And you do this by free your mind. So the way we are sitting here, all of us, we all internalize the current system. We don't only live in the economic system, but the economic system also lives in us. We are the system. Therefore, system change starts within us. It doesn't start with us, it starts within us. It starts with deconditioning the current status quo. It's about dissolving the dominant logic to become non-conformist. It's about developing critical thinking. This is crucial. And so change makers see what everybody sees, but do what nobody does. Always. So like the little bird in the story, we have to step out of the box, get off the beaten track, go against the grain. No, I don't know how you want to call it. It all comes down, it all boils down to the same thing. We have to do exactly the opposite of what the masses do. The comfortably numb masses. This is important. And then, last but not least, we also have the amplition skills. And there is no better way to describe amplition than via this wonderful quote of our Buckminster Fuller, an American designer. You might have heard of him. You never change something by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And this is exactly what changemakers do. They build a new system instead of fighting the old system. And they do this by being the change, by living the new system already. We can actually learn by their doing. Changemakers know how to inspire, involve, and impact other people. Really, really, really important. Changemakers know how to transfer their idealism and activism onto other people. I'm absolutely sure that you all know people like this. people that touch you, people that move you, people that lead the way that you want to follow as well. This is essential with change makers. Change makers are really, really, really contagious people. And they need it, because the way forward is to build community. And speaking of community, there are two dominant change-making, system change-making narratives out there in the world, and I'm absolutely sure that you will recognize these. So the first one is the day narrative. And in the story I told you earlier, there was a very clear day narrative. The day narrative is that system change is not for us as simple individuals. They have to do it. And they is big government, big corporations. You know, we're only simple human beings. So the only thing that we can do is we can go out on the street with our protest boards and demand from them that they do what we ask them to do. And a lot of us are in the day narrative. A lot of us go out in the street to protest in the hope that they will hear us and do whatever we ask them. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have the I narrative, also very popular. So the I narrative is the only way that I can change something is by changing myself. So I have no idea what the system is, but I can change myself. And if I change myself, I hope it will have an impact on the whole system. And don't get me wrong, these two are wonderful and important narratives. I support them fully. I'm part of both. And I'm sure that you might be part of them as well. Maybe not both, maybe not all of you, but a lot of people, I think, will recognize the day narrative and the I narrative. The problem, though, is they both come with frustration. So the frustration of the day narrative is that it leaves a sense of powerlessness, because they have to do it for us. And of course, they never do. They never do what the hell we ask them to do. And powerlessness is frustrating. And the same goes for the I narrative. The I narrative isn't powerless because you feel really empowered if you change your habit yourself. But the frustration of the I narrative is in meaninglessness. So if I, for instance, become a vegan, but then my neighbor throws an extra large steak on the barbecue, I feel completely meaningless. You know, what's the use? What's the use of me changing my habits and my behavior if my neighbor doesn't change at all? Recognizable, huh? But what we forget that there is a wonderful, wonderful, fruitful space in between they and I, which is the we space. And it is the we space that change makers roam. It is the we space that change makers use to create communities of change. It's the we space where you find like-minded people with a like-minded goals that together change a movement for good. Yeah, so go out there and find like-minded people. Don't change the world, but change your own little world. Each and every one of us can change our own world. And this is the realm of the common. We can do a lot of stuff without the economy and without the state. We can do it ourselves. The way that we sit here, we cannot change the biodiversity problem on this planet. We can't. But all of you can change the biodiversity problem in the Bergen area. That is very, very, very realistic. And that is empowering, and that is enabling, and that is what agency is all about. So, yes, to leave you, I would like to ask you, to invite you, because I think it's all about rain, as I hopefully explained you in our story. I think that the essence of change makers is that they are rainmakers. Change making is rainmaking. The little bird in our story proved that we need to make rain. And rain is a collective action. It's something we do together. All of you are tiny drops by yourself, but together we can become a rain shower. And as I am tonight, standing here in what I think is the rain capital of the world, I think there is no better place to start this dissolution. So Bergen, are we going to make it rain? Yes. Thank you very much.